This is Garrett Rowlan reading from my novel, The Jacob Sticks, to be published later on this summer in 2025. I'm going to read chapter 1. The Jacob Sticks, part 1, Tuesday, Friday, chapter 1. Dab Otto's life changed when he played his last movie as a sub-teacher for the Los Angeles Unified School District, or LAUSD. The tape copy of Finding Nemo he'd shown many times. He carried the film in his backpack for situations just like this, a day when things looked bad, as they did after he entered his assigned room at Anthony Quinn Junior High. He didn't want to return to the school after he got in trouble here last week, but he needed the work. Entering the classroom at 7:40 on a Tuesday morning, he saw misaligned desks, crumpled papers, dust balls, and buried in the teacher's messy desk, several ragged reports written by previous substitute teachers. He found key phrases, called security, no lesson plans, and so forth. He was the 7th sub in as many days, never a good sign. And no behavior calming VCR or connecting TV. Tempted to leave, pleading a sudden illness, Dab reminded himself that the rent was due and sub work was sketchy. It was the 3rd of March, 2013. He was 59 years old and intended to retire with benefits just after his next birthday in late June. But to do so meant he had to work 1 day per pay period, and this was his chance to check that monthly box. Anyway, he was tired of haunting libraries and bargain movie matinees. He took what they offered. He was getting old, burnt out, and retiring. That's what mattered. He handed out word searches and made more copies of the puzzles between classes, moving around or sometimes standing outside and taking deep breaths. Dad pretended not to see the cell phones and MP3s. Fine by him, so long as it kept them pacified. The occasional rubber band flew. Days like this reminded him of those phony films when some teacher takes over a rowdy class and changes lives. His aims were, and had always been, realistic. Keep things calm until the final bell. After minor misbehavior and a scuffle between two students in 3rd period, his luck changed. And by period 6, he got a VCR. Some neighboring teacher, maybe taking pity on Dab, rolled the TV and attached player over. After taking attendance, he popped in Nemo. It was survival mode, and he looked like he was going to survive until the tape broke. The TV screen turned effervescent with static. Charged diode sizzled. Dab swore under his breath and turned on the lights. Like gut-shot entrails, the tape tangled as he pulled it from the VCR. He rolled the TV on its squeaking casters back into a corner. Okay, he told the class as he dropped Nemo in the trash. Find a story in the reader and read it and write a summary. The readers themselves were decade-old books and that had the sag of flophouse tenants. Dab heard a mocking laugh, a snicker from the back row. Look at him, look at the loser sub. The male student imitated someone spitting on the floor. His puckered lips then twisted into a snarl. You're not a real teacher. Dab had heard that before. Still, he was shocked. Contempt flooded the student's face. And while student misbehavior was the coin of the sub-realm, especially in middle school, there was something that hid a class distinction. Of course, sub-teachers were insulted, ignored, or looked on with contempt, or regarded, at least in hard-working Hispanic East LA, as having an easy job. Gratuitous hate was rare, or maybe Dab had learned to ignore it. But this felt more like disdain and faintly snooty, a downward glance from one economic class to another. The kid had a shaved head and a bandana, and for a second this attire struck Dab as a costume, a piece of theater. Maybe it was the kid's accent. Dad detected the stretched vowels of West Los Angeles or the San Fernando Valley. This was their second encounter. At noon, walking across the lunch area, he had felt an object hit the back of his neck. Whirling, he saw the same kid look away in an exaggerated posture of disassociation. His hands behind his back and his cheeks contracted in a mock, innocent whistle. Dad did nothing about it. By the time some AP or whoever got into the act, he might come out looking like the aggressor. Better to grin and bear it. Keep your head down. Don't make waves, especially with his retirement looming. This guy's a loser, the kid said. Loser. With a tape broken, a hypnotic spell snapped, and an instigator instigating, things went downhill. Two kids pitched pennies. A couple of girls chased each other around the classroom and out the door. Even the few kids actually doing the assignment gave up, pushing their tattered class books to the side. One hit the floor. Dad felt the onset of panic. He knew that the in-class phone didn't work. He had, earlier today, tried to call for security but got only a dead connection. Still, he did the pantomime of a sub assured by the main office that help was on the way. A girl with glasses, one of those studious types, looked up from the front of the class. She told him what Dad and probably most of the class already knew. That phone doesn't work, she said with a slight smile, as if she were in on the joke. No sirve de nada. Dad pulled out his flip phone and made another show of talking to someone. They are out of control. Send someone now. The kid in back, the gangbanger, or dressed in the garb of one, laughed out loud, as if he saw through the ruse. He had been the ringleader, even trying to stir things up while the movie was playing. He didn't succeed, and the images had their own form of hypnosis that was now gone. What's that you say? Dad continued, speaking loudly so that the class could hear and presumably calm down. You say security will be here in a minute? Good. He sounded himself like he was doing an old Bob Newhart routine. He disconnected. The gangbanger threw a tennis ball that ricocheted off a wall and over, under, and around the desk. Rising blood pressure sang in Dad's ears. Feeling like his movements were instigated by a drunken puppeteer, he stumbled down one aisle between desks and grabbed the ball, hearing what he hoped wasn't a fart or the tiny ripping of his old pants as he leaned over. As he returned to the front of the class, a rubber band hit the side of his neck. Dad turned to see the same kid with a disingenuous look as on the playground earlier. Skin stretched across the boy's skull. For a second, Dad thought to himself, that's no junior high school kid. The kid's laugh drilled into his ears. One reason why he wanted to retire was the way he noticed his patience lessening with the years. He now felt a pressure inside him building, but knew he had to check himself because what you said could get you in trouble. Yet the way the kid smiled made a worm squirm in his skull and come out of his mouth. Fucking kids, Dad croaked at last. He tossed the ball into the corner. The troublemaker grinned. I want to be just like you when I grow up, he said. His thin lips curled with a mannered cruelty, almost like the depiction of a hybrid Nazi in a WW2 flick. Indeed, now that Dad was closer, the kid's skin tone looked paler than he first thought. Dad sensed or imagined some kind of makeup, some protective coloration. You're a loser, the kid said. All your life a loser. Dad felt a rage and heard a sloshing of voices all around him. He'd lost control of them. He felt his thoughts uncoupling. He wanted to hit the kid, but only slapped his desk. You're the loser, he said. He felt himself coming undone, thread by thread. You're acting like animals, just like animals. He saw, too late, that the kid had held a phone in one hand and had recorded the comment. Ready for your close-up? The kid said. Ready for your close-up, Mr. Otto? The teenager spoke with a snarling sarcasm. Ready for your close-up, Mr. Nobody Sub? You can't talk to me like that. I can talk any way I want. The kid pocketed his phone. You're not a real teacher. You're just a sub. You'll be gone tomorrow. I'm writing a referral, damn it. The kid chortled. Dad went to the temporary roll sheet, a Xerox, and he found the name, Daniel Ramos, penciled in, remembering it from the smart-ass way the kid had answered his name when he had called roll. Daniel Ramos, he wrote, but by the time he had scribbled in a shaking hand, defiant, rude, disruptive, Daniel Ramos had walked out of the room. Who was that, homeboy? One student asked another, nodding in the direction of the door that had closed. I don't know, said the other. Never saw him before. He was here yesterday, the girl with glasses said, but not before. In 5 minutes, an assistant principal, a short-haired Latina woman, entered the room. Administration never shows up unless there's trouble. We got a complaint, she said to Dab. Just go to the main office. She looked for his name on the grease board. Otto, he said. I wrote it this morning, but they must have erased it. She nodded. Mr. Otto, I'll sit here until school ends. School ends, Dab thought. The most beautiful 2 words in the English language, but not today. As a final humiliation, the class calmed down as he left. Dab took his backpack and went to the main office and sat on a bench. As he did, his mind wandered. He was hired some 20 years ago by LAUSD, when jobs were still fairly easy to find with the district. He was a sub and always a sub. He didn't take the abuse personally. Shit happened. Mostly the job was okay. He followed the lesson plans and brought word searches to keep the kids with their heads down and a pencil in their hands. It usually worked. He had good days and bad days. And on the bad ones, he knew there was a beer waiting when he got home. He liked the idea of anonymity, going from one school to another. One of his girlfriends had been a teacher who wanted him to be a regular teacher too. That never happened. They broke up and she moved to another district. He never had that many girlfriends. The final bell rang. In the hall, there were the sound of kids liberated for the day. And soon thereafter, the teachers arrived, signing out. There were a couple of subs. Dab didn't know them. They were probably reduction in force regular teachers who, for reasons of student population decline, got reassigned as subs. 10 minutes later, after the day's final bell, a voice said, Dab Otto? Dab turned. A Hispanic man with a white shirt and a blue tie and a receding hairline said, would you step inside, please? It was the school principal, Mr. Salgado. Dab followed him around the corner, behind which sat 2 secretaries. One was signing out the subs for the day, taking their room keys and handing out per diem vouchers in return. The other secretary, Rosa, looked upset. Dab entered a small office, a desk and bookshelf. Following the principal, Mr. Salgado sat with a weary look. He had dark hair with threads of gray that seemed to follow the alluvial patterns as the lines in his face. We meet again, Salgado said. Indeed they did. Mr. Salgado gave Dab an unsat last week when he walked out of class, though he considered himself lured, which was hard to explain. He saw a woman across the street. 20 years of subbing and no unsatisfactory received. Oh, he'd come close, been reprimanded a few times, but nothing, as far as he knew, had gone on record. And now, just when the finish line on his so-called career was nearing, one bad report last week, and now possibly a second unsatisfactory or unsat loomed. Salgado asked him to close the door behind him. That's never a good sign. Dab, is it? Short for Dabney, I assume. Just Dab. Well, Dab, I'm Alejandro Salgado, and we're giving you an unsatisfactory performance. Again? Mr. Salgado nodded. He was a man of middle height with a remarkably large head, tipped forward in a door knocker effect. His brown eyes regarded Dab with a distant sympathy, like a motorist passing a car wreck. His receding hairline was combed straight back, all the better to make the gray pattern stand out. I already got one of those recently, Dab added, from here. You. Yes, I know. You know I don't need another, Dab said. You should have thought of that before you made a racial remark, Salgado said. Behaving like animals? I didn't say anything, Dab said, desperate. You made that up. The student says he has witnesses. They're lying, Dab said. They're just trying to get back at me because I was trying to make them work. I see, Mr. Salgado said. Well, doubtful, some ingrained bureaucratic wariness constrained him. He turned at a knock on the door. Two people entered the room. The first was a Hispanic woman with small dark eyes that turned on Dab like the business end of two pencils. And behind her was Daniel Ramos, who looked none the worse for wear, even pleased, as if a curtain had closed in front of him to applause beyond. His features had a faint carapace of age. It wasn't easy being a preteen, if he was. His mother wailed something in Spanish and pointed at Dab. He wondered how she had gotten here so fast. Mr. Salgado told them to sit. He made a racial remark, Dab said. Daniel said. He sounded hurt, but his mouth settled into a smirk. He's lying, Dab said. The mother sat down. She looked to be about 40 with black eyes and dark hair which gave off a whiff of lacquer. She pressed her lips together. They were smeared with lipstick, as if too quickly applied. Meanwhile, Daniel, like so many other kids, a whole damn generation, had arrived at the future before Dab. He pulled a cell phone from his pocket and handed it to Salgado. No cell phones in class, Dab said lamely. Salgado gave him a look of puzzled irritation. He turned the screen to him. The video played. Looking as if he were drunk, Dab muttered, "Fucking kids," in a strangled voice and walked with a stumble. He slapped Daniel Ramos's desk. "You're acting like animals." Mr. Salgado had heard enough. He returned the phone to Dab's accuser. Daniel almost looked as if he were suppressing a laugh. The mother made a brief diatribe in Spanish, and Dab recognized racismo and derechos and justicia from the LAUSD board meetings he watched on television. He was a racist. She demanded her rights. She demanded justice. Dab picked up intimations of histrionics as if she were reciting. Maybe we were all reading off a script. The idea was gaining on him lately. He wondered if the idea of retirement or just aging were doing things to his head. Last week he walked out of class, lured by an image of a woman on a bus bench. She was an elderly woman with long gray hair, and around the neck she wore, "You understand?" Salgado said, interrupting Dab's reverie. "Yes," Dab said. Mother and son were walking out. The mother held her head high like a grande dame in a telenovela, and Dan Ramos, did he wink? Dab wasn't sure. "Look," he said, when they were gone, "you get so much shit, you snap back. Like calling Mexican Americans animals." "I was stressed out, I'm sorry." "I accept your apology," Salgado said with a smile. "You're still getting your unsatisfactory. Sorry about that. I know a little myself about a regretted action." His glance went past Dab, who turned and saw the secretary Rosa looking at her boss. They both looked away. Dab looked away too, like I told you. "This is my second this year. People have been fired for that." "You won't be fired. You'll be put on standby." "Put on standby is the same as being fired. I won't get a call for the rest of the semester. I haven't got my 100 days this year. I won't be retiring on paid status, which means no benefits." "You got 2 on sats. Nothing I can do." Salgado smiled, and mean little brackets formed at the edges of his mouth. I'm ready to retire in a few months. Believe me, I'm ready. I believe you are. That's what I thought when I got the call. Because you see, I was requested for this job. Requested.